Well, happy Sunday to you. Thank you for joining me for Sundays with Sam. Thank you for liking my channel and subscribing to the channel. Invite your friends to join in with you as we start our week off right with a devotional, a Sunday devotional. And we know that you guys are doing your own devotional throughout the week. So, as Tabitha Brown says, let's get into it. Today, we're going to talk about, do you believe what you see? You would think, well, I see it, so yeah, I believe it. We're gonna look at this from the angle of the story that you're probably all familiar with, the David and Goliath. But we're gonna look at it from a different perspective. So first of all, we're gonna just look at a little bit of the history and just set it up to where David actually took him out. So we had the Philistine army on one side and the Israelite army on the other side. So they were in this area called the Shephelah, which separated the coastal plains from the mountainous area. And the Philistine army was planning to go and make their attack on King Saul. They were going to come from the coastal plain and go up the mountainside to go up there and try to conquer the Israelites. So King Saul heard about it. He was like, oh, that ain't happening. So they came down from the mountain going towards them. So they get to like a standoff where they've got the Shephelah in between, and it's like a valley area that they have to cross. So the Israelites, they were along one ridge, or on the northern ridge, and then the Philistines were on the southern ridge. So they just were like, okay, well, I ain't moving. They just kind of like at a stare down because of the openness of that particular area. Then if whichever army moved, if they had to come down to the valley to go to the other side, they weren't gonna be covered. They were just gonna be out there. So they thought, okay, well, I ain't going out. And the other army's like, well, I'm not going out. So they were just like at a standstill. So of course, there's different ways that they were fighting the battles back then. So they had what they did where they did like a one-on-one combat, so they wouldn't have the bloodshed of the whole army. So they had Goliath on the Philistine side. So he comes out there and he's taunting them, just, send somebody out here, that can fight me, and I'm going to feed you to the birds and all of this. He just out there, he's this big giant of a man, like 9 feet tall, and the Israelites are just shaking in their boots. So anyway, this just goes on for like 40 days. But in the meantime, over here on the backside of the Israelite camp, Jesse wanted David to go and take his brother some food because his 3 older brothers, he was the younger brother, 3 of his older brothers, they were out there on the in the war, in the battle that was about to happen with Saul. So Jesse wanted him to take some food to him. So, because David was out there tending the sheep, he just minded his own business. He was kind of oblivious of what was really going on. So he went to take the food, and then he heard them talking, and he saw Goliath out there, just saying, "Hey, I double dog dare you to send somebody out here to fight me. Bring them here. Just bring them to me." He out there bragging and stuff. So David was asking, what's going on? So they were telling him what was going on and talked to him about what all the person would get if anybody could take him down. And, they would get all these riches and their families would be taken care of and all of that. And one of the brothers heard him talking about it. He was like, what you even doing here? Well, this is none of your business. You don't even need to be out here. Why are you out here, at the battle line anyway? You ain't supposed to be out here. And he was like, man, dude, I just came to bring y'all some food. So he was like, I can't talk to my brother. See, They don't believe I can do anything. They just see me as the little brother. So he go ask somebody else to see if he was gonna get the same answer. And he did, and all of them standing around scared, Goliath out there, boasting about what all he gonna do. So he told King Saul, he was like, I can do it. I can go take him out. And he was like, you just a little boy. What you gonna do? You can't do nothing. So David thinking, see, y'all don't know nothing about me. He told him, he said, now I've been the shepherd over these sheep. And when the bear came, I was there. I took care of my sheep. And see, with the shepherds, they really put their life on the line, because it wasn't like they had this enclosed fence, or corral that you see like in farms and stuff now. So they basically like lay themselves out in front of the sheep to protect them. And that's just like how Jesus is our shepherd, like the 23rd Psalms, the Lord is my shepherd. So he's going to lay himself out to protect us from whatever is coming towards us. And that's what David did. So, excuse me a minute. So, he said, well, I've protected them in the past, and he said, I can do this. And of course, nobody else was saying they were gonna do it. So Saul finally was like, well, okay. So, if you go out there, I want you to put on all this armor, because when Goliath came out, he had on all his bronze armor and all of this stuff just covering his whole body, and he was just, he was already big anyway, but then he comes out there with all this armor on. And so David was trying to put that stuff on. He was like, you know what, you can have this. He said, I ain't have all this on when I was defending the sheep, and I did just fine. So he said, no, see, this just gonna hold me back. This gonna slow me down. All of this heavy armor, this weighing me down. I don't need this. Because he said, I got Jesus with me. And so they were like, well, okay, because nobody else was going out there. So he picked up his stone, and the stones in that particular area were not like these little pebbles. These were some heavier stones that he picked up. And he went walking down, going to meet Goliath. And Goliath saw somebody coming, and he was just like, yeah, come on to me so I can feed you to the birds. He's still taunting, thinking folks scared of him because of how big he is and all his armor he got, and he got his sword and his javelin, and he's got all the stuff that he needs, that he's gonna do his hand-to-hand combat with, because that's what he was thinking. Because when he said, come to me, see, he thinking that the person gonna come all the way to him so they can have like this hand-to-hand combat. So when he saw David coming, he was really kind of insulted. He was like, really? Really? Now, y'all, look at me and look at him. This just ain't gonna even be a battle. Y'all could have sent somebody other than this little boy. And then he said, what? Why are you coming up here with me like I'm a dog and with these little sticks in your hand? Now pay attention to what I said. And he was just like, this is just a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer. I got this. So anyway, he's still doing all his taunting and everything, waiting for David to get up there to him. So now, and we know that David had what we call a slingshot. Well, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm not gonna tell you that part yet. But anyway, so David was walking up to him, but he never did get really close to him. And we know what he did. And I'm gonna tell you that part, and then I'll explain about the slingshot. So we knows that he takes his stone out of his bag, and he swings it around and around and around, and he lets it go, and he hits Goliath right in between the eyes, and Goliath falls. So he don't have a sword or anything, but he had told him he was gonna cut his head off, and he was gonna feed him to the birds. While Goliath talking about what all he gonna do. So he go over there to Goliath, take his own sword out, and cut his head off. And of course, the Philistines was like, oh my God, this little boy did that and he killed Goliath. Man, we about to sky up, because he ain't gonna kill us too. If he can kill Goliath, we don't stand a chance. So they took their tails and started running. They ran away. Ain't that something? And see, they thought they had it because they had Goliath. So they thought, hey, we got this. We got this. Why y'all sending this little boy? So anyway, what I wanted to look at from a different perspective, we always think that David is the underdog because he was just this little kid. He was a shepherd boy, and he didn't have any armor. And it said that all he had was his sling. But, you have to look at that from a different perspective. Like my question said, do you believe what you see? So when you look at the types of warriors that they had, you had the cavalry, and this was the people that were on horseback and chariots. And so these men, if you recall, you would see them like in battle, and they would have some in chariots, and they would have some of them on horseback, and that's how they would go into battle. And then you had the heavy infantry, and these were the foot soldiers, but they were armed. They had all of their weapons and everything. Then you had the artillery, and these were the archers and the slingers. And and that's what David was. And he didn't have like the traditional little like slingshot that you think about that the kids have. So it had like two long cords, leather cords on it, and he wrapped the stone in one and just swinging and swinging and swinging. And he was like, the rotations were really, really fast. So when he let it loose, with power. And from what one researcher says, it was like with the power of a 45 gun. So, and with the power that the bullet comes out of that. So that was a whole lot of power. So when he let it go, then that's why it had so much power to knock Goliath down. And the research also says that the slingers could hit their target as much as like 200 yards away. But we know that David was closer than the 200 yards, so he didn't have a problem and of hitting him just where he wanted to hit him. So now when we look at Goliath, we look at, we see how tall he is, but then when you look at how he got that tall, there is something called acromegaly, and that causes you to have a excessive growth hormone. So they think that that's what was going on with Goliath. But because of you having this acromegaly, that and a common condition of that is the giantism, it does have some side effects. And then one of the side effects is that it can have problems with the pituitary gland. So anyway, he had a pituitary tumor, or they're thinking that he may have had a pituitary tumor, because it does affect the optical nerve and your vision. And actually, my husband has had a pituitary tumor 3 times. So we praise Jesus that he is doing well. But the way we found out the first time, he was losing his vision and didn't know what was going on. We went to the eye doctor, and they determined that something was going on, and they sent him immediately to have an MRI. And then they did diagnose him with a pituitary tumor that was pressing on his optic nerve and causing him to lose his vision. So with Goliath, the some of the side effects was, double vision, or nearsightedness. So when he, and I told you to pay attention to what I said, that he said David was coming at him with sticks. And David had his staff, his shepherd's staff, but he had double vision, and he thought he had two sticks in his hand. So he said, "Oh, you coming at me like I'm a dog with these sticks in your hand," because he couldn't really see him that well. And then you notice too, it says that he was brought out by an attendant. So you think, okay, this big giant man, why he got to have somebody walk out with him? Because he really couldn't see that good. And so when David was coming down the mountain to confront him, you know, he wasn't even thinking like, well, he don't have nothing in his hand. So, we going to combat, and he don't even have anything in his hand. I guess he wasn't really thinking, okay, well, so how he gonna fight? He kept thinking that because he said, "Come to me." So if the person came close enough to him, then he could see, and he could be able to fight him. So I guess that was his way of making sure that he was in control. Because if the person came up to him close enough, then he could see him and he can beat him up. So, but he ain't realized that David was like, "Oh no, see, we ain't even going that route. I don't have to fight you with no hand to hand combat. See, I got something else. You got all your armor and your sword and your javelin and your spears and all that, but I come with the name of Jesus, and that's got more power than all of that." So he was just really caught by surprise. So we say that David was the underdog, but look at these issues that Goliath had against him, and look at also he was an uncircumcised Philistine. Okay, so you know that he was uncircumcised, so that means that he was not under the covenant. So that's another thing against Goliath. So we're covered by Jesus. And so he didn't have that particular covering. So was we look at what's visible in the physical, but we also have to look at what is invisible in the spiritual. And we as Christians today, we have that invisible spiritual that we can look at, because we have things that are Goliaths in our lives. You may have economical issues, you may have family issues, some type of relational issues, you may have issues at work, you might have emotional issues. There's just all kinds of things that's going on in today's life, different types of Goliaths that are just looming over you, and that you feel like just is overwhelming, and you just can't make it because it's just over you like that 9-foot giant. But hey, you got Jesus. And it may seem big, but faith focuses on God and not on your circumstances. So even though if it looks huge, and you think that you just can't make it, but you just have to remember that you have Jesus, you have a covenant with him, but you have to just walk in your power of that covenant. You have to live the life. You might we don't want you to be in a situation where you're legally connected, where you said, okay, I've committed my life to Christ, you believe Jesus as your Savior and Lord, but then you don't really live that out. You're not really using the umbrella of the covenant. You got the umbrella, it's sitting right there by you. But if you don't open it up, you're going to get wet. So how crazy is that? You've got something to cover you. It's storming outside, and you got an umbrella, and you say, "Oh, okay, I got it's raining outside. I got an umbrella." But you go on out the door, and you don't open the umbrella. So what good is it to you if it's not open? So if you're not just actually walking in your power of having Jesus in your life as your covering, then it's like you walking around with your umbrella in your hand in the rain, and you're not being covered. So we have to realize that we have the divine authority and our problems do not. We have the divine authority. We can't give the power to the problem because we got more power than the problem. So, Jesus has more power than any foe can withstand. So, when we change how we see what we see, then we change what we do about what we see. When we change how we see what we see, then we change what we do with what we see. So, are you looking at things from your natural eyes or from your supernatural eyes? Are you looking at things that are visible physically? Are you looking at the invisible spiritual? So, there's different ways to look at things from different perspectives. So, do you believe what you see? They saw this big giant, but then the giant, he had all of them scared, but he really was at a disadvantage. So when you have all these big problems looming over you, don't let them scare you. They just a big old Goliath. Just bring your Jesus out on them. That's what you need to do. Hey, that's your ammunition right there. The word. Put the word on it. And you got the power right there, and you need to walk in your power, walk in that divine authority. We need to be an offensive saint and not a defensive Christian. So when we are on the offense and we're praising God and we're studying our word and we ready to just go in on it and just take that Goliath and just sling him around and just toss him out, then we don't have to be on the defense, because we come ready. We come ready. So we're gonna walk by faith and not talk by faith. We don't want to just be saying all this stuff and then not walk it out. So just think about that. Whatever things you got looming over your life that feel like a Goliath, just know that you got the power. You got the covering. You're under covenant with Jesus. Just open up that umbrella and just live under that covenant, under that covering. And then you don't have to believe when you see things in the natural, because then you know how it is in the supernatural. And that's what we're going to walk in today. All right? Okay, so that's my lesson for today. Repeat after me. I am one and only one. I can't do all things, but I can do some things. And that I can do, I ought to do. And by the grace of God, I will do it. Go out and have yourselves an amazingly awesome week. And I will see you here next Sunday.